Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am on day number 6 of the 21-day meditation challenge, and is about a dream that I had last night, which is really kind of strange because I've been having reoccurring dreams for the last few months or so whenever I would actually sleep. And this time I dreamt that I was back at the university going to a chemistry class that I never actually signed up for. I've never taken a chemistry class at the university, and the strangest thing is that it felt like that it kind of correlated with uh, so much so with reality that I woke up thinking that I had class. Well, that I had to go to class. Also, if I have class, that's for you to decide. But whatever the case, but I was like kind of freaked out because I woke up and I was thinking about this class, and I was thinking, did I take chemistry? Because I don't recall ever having consciously taken chemistry. So that's what it was about, and I just thought it was like really interesting. So I decided to focus the meditation today on that and see what it brings. So here we go. This is day number 6. It's January 16th, 2026, and here we go. And I started out by saying last night I couldn't sleep, but when I did, I had the reoccurring dream of taking a chemistry class at the university. It was so real, like I had actually done it. Why is it that I'm having reoccurring dreams about something that I vividly recall dreaming about before? Ramon says, "You are having a recollection about a past life experience." I said, "How can that be? I dreamt about that because I wanted to understand my husband's world. He is a chemist with a PhD. Ramon says, "True enough. So why do you suppose you had that dream?" I said, "Well, in it I was taking a class, but after I took an exam, I quit. I remember going to the professor and speaking to him. He was not angry or indifferent, just curious about where I had gone and why it was that I had stopped coming to his class." Did you recall a name? Henderson or Hudson. I believe it was Henderson, something like that. But anyway, he was an older man, very wise with kind eyes. At one point, he asked me, "Why did you sign up for my class?" It wasn't a confrontation, but rather there was a sense of curiosity. He really wanted to know why. What had motivated me? I told him that my husband was a chemist and a PhD, and that bit was totally true. Ramon says, about, did you tell your husband about the dream?" I said I did, but not with a lot of detail. Strange, I can still remember the look of the classroom, the chalkboard at the front, the large lab table with glass flasks and test tubes. Not ostentatious, just matter of fact. The professor stood at the front, with graying hair, spectacles, and an earnest expression. About 20 students sat in the room. My place was at table's end, not a side table, but the short end of a longer table. At the other end of the table, not catty-cornered from me, but rather further down, another student sat. The professor would start lecturing, the room growing quiet. The other students had distanced themselves from me. I could sometimes hear them muttering about the strange fine arts student in the chem lab. The thing is, from the first time I had the dream, was about 15 years ago, but today I had it again, and it was like a story had continued, like I was supposed to return to that classroom and explain to this man where I had gone and why I had disappeared. And Ramon says, "What did he tell you?" I said, "Well, when I approached him, I felt hesitant. It was as though I was coming back to that place, to that situation, not out of want or need, but rather because something inside of me was compelled to. As I stood in this empty classroom, I could feel the top of the desk as my hand was brushing along the smooth surface. When the professor entered the room, he stopped short and looked at me. "It has been a while, has it not?" he asked me. His voice was level, as though I knew what a story I knew that a story was about to play out. Before I could answer, I started thinking about how I had been a full-time student and dropping the class would drop me to half-time status. I felt like I had to be there because a semester would would be ending and an F on my transcript would bury me. Ramon says, "Why do you suppose you were suddenly thinking about that?" I said, "I don't know. I felt as though I was trying to figure out what it was about that room or circumstances behind my wanting to take chemistry in the first place." Before I could respond, the professor continued, "Why did you take my class if you weren't interested in completing it?" I thought about that. I thought about all the times that I had tried to do things, but the notion that I would fall short or fail them. It's like that story of the child who wanted to try something even though everyone around him thought that he would fail, but that he went ahead and did it because he was not told that he would fail. It was just everybody thought. It was an unconscious thought that everyone had about him failing. I said I wanted to complete it, I began. I wanted my husband to see me as smart, as able to complete something, even if it seemed impossible. Ramon says, "Yvette, do you not see what this is telling you?" I said, "All that I see is myself trying to prove to my husband that I'm smart enough, good enough. I always said that he's the smartest person I know." Ramon says, "Yes, and the professor's asking you all the right questions." I said, "He is. And later in that dream, he confirmed to me that I am good enough." Ramon says, "Let's walk through this one step at a time." What did he say? Well, he said that I'm good enough. You don't have to be a chemist or take chemistry class to show that you are intelligent. How often have you buried your thoughts, ideals, and dreams to prove to another person that you are good enough? Ramon says he was right. You have your own gifts and abilities, your own passions and ideas that show that you may not know a lot about a science, to respect it and to admire those who are devoting their lives to it. You have your own gifts, the gift of music, of words, of creativity, which is just as special. It's like those moments that you tell your husband that he can sing. He doesn't believe it because so many people have tried to shut him down. The day that happened was the last time he really sang. Stepping out and singing karaoke was an act of courage on his part. That act was a gift that he gave to you because he loves you. And like you telling him that he can sing, he encourages you to study and learn to get your ham radio license. He knew that the test was a difficult one, but he also knew that you had the capability to pass, and you did. No one can tell you that you are not smart enough to do or not good enough. The professor in your dream confirmed this affirmation. He was not grading you on what you could not do. He was telling you a message that you needed to hear. Every time you doubt yourself or step into a new arena, try and remember that it is not telling you that if you tried harder to learn chemistry that you could succeed. He told you gently as a sort of guide that you must consider that you are not perfect. That although you may not be the next Justus Liebig or Marie Curie, that you can respect those who pursue those fields without actually being one. This is a very defined lesson for you because internally you've always tried to be perfect. You've always tried to see your mistakes as lessening of character. It is not. The things you cannot do are things you cannot do. If people expect you to be perfect or view things as they perceived perfection to be, then they are not of the proper place to be in your life. The professor reminds you that it is okay to not be perfect. You must forge out your own path not based on the hopes, dreams, or wishes of others, but instead on the things that are significant to you. This is why you have the recurring dream. But now that you have the message has been received and you have interpreted it with clarity, then there will be no other dream. There will be other dreams in its place. I said, "Professor Henderson, I think that he was his name. Is he one of my guides?" And Ramon is like smiling, but there's sort of laughter in his next words. And he says, "Of course he is. He's me." I said, "You. I'm having dreams about you appearing as a chemistry professor?" And Ramon says, "Are you surprised?" And I said, "A little bit, especially when you asked me the questions earlier, and it sounded like you were genuinely interested in what I had to say." Ramon says, "I was. I wanted to see how you would respond to all of this. The dream, as with any unconscious concept, well, it will always be a significant thing for you. Looking at how you interpreted the bottles and corks, I wanted to see if you remembered the professor in your other dream." I said, "Well, it feels like a continuation of a story. Like the whole chemistry class, the realism of it had come full circle. I guess I won't expect this dream to repeat, but you know, there was something very likable about the professor. He seemed to be asking all the right questions, but his presence is something I will never forget." And Ramon says, "I would hope not." I said, "Did you like playing the role? I mean, I didn't imagine you to appear like him." Ramon says, "I can be whatever I want to be. So can you. All you have to do is remember, no matter what you decide to do, that you do it with the passion in your heart and not for the sake of approval. The passion is what will bring you further. If it is meant to be," I said, "if it is meant to be, it will be." And Ramon says, "Your words to the universe's ear." And that's where we ended. So that was the dream. It was very, very strange because I had had that dream about, I guess, I don't know, about 15 years ago or something. And I remember waking up and being like so completely immersed in that dream that I thought it was real. And that's exactly what happened last night. When I woke up this morning, I was like, do I have to go to chemistry class? Or do I have to drop this class? Or do I have to do this? And it was very, very strange because I really, really believed that it was real. It really felt real. It felt like that I was taking this class as a way to make my husband happy, even though he was already happy and it didn't really matter. But the fact that I had that dream last night, and it was sort of like that continuation of a dream that I had before, but it was like that when I had the dream before, I remember stopping that I stopped going to class. And this was right after the first test. And when I came back into the dream, it was like I had been awake for all this time. And then when I came back into this dream, it was like it was like after the commercial break and the story continued. And that's what it felt like. So I was like, it was really strange because in the dream it felt like not so much time had passed, maybe like a month or two. But when I got back into the flow of that dream, then it was like everything just kept going. It was like a continuation of something that had happened like 2 months ago and then coming back to it. But it wasn't that. It was basically that it was like an alternate reality. And so I was on this one plane of existence where I'm going through this chemistry class, and then I take the test, and then I stop going to the class, and then about a month later, I come back to the class, and I come back and talk to the professor, and the professor is telling me what I should do, or telling me that that I might consider dropping the class because I'm no longer following along with what's going on in the class. So this was very, very strange. So after I woke up this morning, I was like going, "What the heck just happened here?" And I told my husband that I had this dream about the chemistry class again, and I don't know if I told him about it before, but all I do remember is that this professor was very, very kind. He was very, very nice, but he told me something that surprised me, and that was that it's not my thing. Chemistry's not my area. And it doesn't mean that I'm a failure or I'm a flop because chemistry is not my subject. It's that this is part of what is um, what is happening to a lot of people, that they experience these kind of events in their lives, and they start to question, and they come to this point where they say, is this really where I'm supposed to be? Is this where I'm supposed to go? And so that's what the dream was like. It was like that sort of that coming to that note, that point where one says, is this really what I'm supposed to do, or is this what I'm supposed to pursue? And so, here I am, someone in their mid 50s who is having dreams about being a 20-something-year-old college student who is taking a chemistry class, and finding out later that the chemistry class, the instructor or the professor of the chemistry class is actually Ramon, one of my guides, giving me a message, teaching me something about myself that I needed to hear. So that's what it was. And so I think that by and large, this dream was sort of an extension of the meditation itself. And it was pretty powerful. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being here and for doing the things that make you feel joy and accomplishment. And most importantly, thank you for recognizing what is working and what isn't working. Because in essence, we're all on that path where we are trying to determine or find what it is that works for us and what doesn't. And when we find something that doesn't work for us, sometimes it's harder to let go of that something, because we are sitting there at that juncture where we're saying, I have to try harder in order to succeed. And it may be that the greatest lesson in the world is not trying harder to succeed, but knowing when to say, okay, I can't do this, that this doesn't work for me. So, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, namaste.